New cards, PogChamp. New cards, PogChamp. Oh, we're really getting this all done in one day. So, new Earthbound and Allure artworks. In case you're unfamiliar, there is an Earthbound Immortal that we never got. He's like the Giga King of all Earthbound Immortals. I think he is referenced in some episodes of the anime we didn't get in America. I think. I'm just working off of an incomplete understanding of what this card is. And there he is, you know, there he fucking looks like shit. He also does not really look like an Earthbound Immortal, right? Like, aren't the Earthbound Immortals based off the Nazca lines or whatever? And he's just like a big red guy. Awesome. Anyway. Dark Fiend, level 12, 35, 35. There can only be one Earthbound Immortal on the field during the main phase. You can banish this card from your hand or graveyard, send an Earthbound from your hand or face a monster zone to the graveyard, then apply one of these effects. Special summon an Earthbound monster from your deck or extra deck. Special summon a Red Nova Dragon from your extra deck. It cheats it out. This does not seem good to me. It's been a while since I played Earthbound Immortals. I'm pretty sure that Discord was not you, by the way. That was Doug. I'm pretty sure that this doesn't actually do anything. So what you need to know about the Earthbounds is that there's actually two archetypes within the Earthbound Immortals. There's Earthbound Immortals and there's Earthbound Prisoners, which are the new ones. So this does not banish a prisoner from the field. Otherwise, you would be able to go for the prisoner that bins this guy, then banish this guy, banishing the prisoner to get you into any Earthbound card, which would be sick. You could maybe play Line Walker or something. But it has to send an Earthbound Immortal, which makes me think that it's not very good at all. Alternatively, it does have some applications in like red dragons. Like you can banish this card to send a Red Dragon Archfiend from your face-up monster zone to the graveyard. But the problem with that is that Red Dragon Archfiend doesn't really care for this kind of effect at present. Like, okay, now we can special a Red Nova Dragon from our extra deck, something that the deck already does through a super consistent linear combo. It seems like a combo piece for a deck that doesn't yet exist. If there was like a way the Earthbound Prisoners played a sufficient enough Earthbound Immortal package that this would be some sort of combo enabler for them, I could see it being good. If there was a way that RDA needed the ability to pivot into a Red Nova, this could be really good. But at present, I don't think either of those need that. So, whatever. And the rest of these we already knew. Next up. New 6-AMs. So the thing about 6-AMs is that 6-AMs still are good. They have a mechanism by which they can summon an infinite amount of material. The Shien is still a pretty good monster. It's a spell trap negate. But because we are just going to beat every archetype that people remember fondly into the dust, we're just printing more of these cards. So think to yourself, Shien historically negates a spell trap. What would it have to do to be playable in the modern era? And the answer is it would have to negate a monster effect. It's the exact same card, except it negates a monster effect. It destroys the card, but it negates a monster. That's it. Cool, right? Like, I will admit, it is very funny. So this is the new Shien. It's a 6-star. If Synchro summoned, add a 6 Samurai or Shien effect monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Scary. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, negate the activation, destroy the monster. And like Shien, if it would be destroyed, you can destroy. This one is another monster you control instead. We've got some main deck guys. Anarchist Monk of the 6 Samurai. You can only special summon with the first effect of this card's name once per turn. You can only use the second and third effect once per turn. If you control a 6-Sam, you can special this card from your hand, and if sent from the field to the graveyard, add a 6-Sam quick play spell from your deck to your hand. The card it's going to be searching, I believe, is Aestheticism. And if a 6-Sam monster is synchro summoned using this card as material, the level of all monsters your opponent controls are reduced by 1. Second one, if you control 6-Sam, you can special this card from your hand. If sent to the graveyard, you can add a 6-Strike from your deck to your hand. I don't know which of those people are going to be searching. Are any of the 6 strikes like the trap cards? I guess the 2-for-1 is maybe fine. And a 6 Samurai monster synchro summon using this card as material gains 500, or makes your opponent's monsters lose 500. That's annoying. That's just an annoying card effect to put on something, you know? Hey, this is going to get an inherited effect that causes an AoE debuff. So 2 things that can't be represented on the card that you're just going to have to remember. That's just like annoying from a design perspective. Anishi is still alive. You can only use the first and third effects once per turn. If synchro summon to banish any number of 6 SAMs from your graveyard, then bounce that many monsters your opponent controls. Jesus Christ. Warriors gain 500 during the battle phase, and if sent to the graveyard, special a banished 6 SAM. That's insane. Oh, 6-strike double assault. Okay. Special a 6 SAM with 2,000 or less attack from your hand or graveyard. Change a monster your opponent controls to face-down defense position. Then during your main phase, banish this card from your graveyard, target a 6 SAM in your graveyard, add it to your hand. I imagine this will be played because it's searchable. These are cool cards. The problem that I see with them is that 6 SAM isn't in a position where the difference maker in terms of like if it's good or bad is the strength of its end board. 6 SAM can already do Cold Fusion if they're uninterrupted. The problem for me is that there's just too many cards that are too susceptible to too many points of interaction for this deck to consistently go second. The cards like Anishi help. And it is too susceptible to both hand traps and board breakers to consistently put up a board that boxes out everything going first. And I don't think that this fixes that at all. It still feels like you do have to open like 2 or 3 specific cards to accomplish anything interesting. A lot of your power is concentrated in very few cards that are very susceptible to interaction. Not super excited about these new cards. But at the end of the day, Stardunk Dragon is probably right. We don't want these cards to be good. Next up. Primordials. Okay, so these are like, oh god, Genski means literally ore, but due to this being a very short phrase included in larger words, we choose to expand the, oh my god, we get it. You were localizing in a fun and epic way. Imperial Dragon, the Primordial Dragon. Okay. Requires 1 normal monster tribute to normal summon. All right. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. During your opponent's main phase, you can reveal this card in your hand. Normal summon a primordial monster. Okay, I'm immediately understanding what's going on here. If this card is tribute summoned, you can apply these effects in sequence, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls, banish all monsters your opponent controls with the same type and or attribute as any of the normal monsters in your graveyard. Wow, this shit's gonna go crazy in Red Mage Magic-y replays. Primordial Imperial Load. You can only use the first and third effects once per turn. When it resolves, add a Primordial from your deck to your hand. Normals gain 300 for each normal in your graveyard with a different name. You can declare normal monster's name, especially normal monster with that name from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and you can't activate the effects of monsters that have been special summoned for the rest of the turn. That's interesting. Primordial Tremors. This is a card people expect to be splashed in Plant Link. Pay 2k, declare a normal monster's name. Apply this effect if you control no monsters, special and normal with a declared name from your deck and defense. Once applied, your primordial monsters and normals cannot be destroyed by battle until the end of your opponent's turn. Very unexpected die. If your opponent normal summons a monster, banish this from your graveyard, target a normal monster you control in your graveyard, and banish a monster on the field with lower attack. This card seems really good. And Primordial Skiller. Reveal a normal monster or primordial in your hand except for Skiller, then target a face-up card on the field. If you control a normal monster level 5 or higher primordial, you do not have to reveal a card. Negate its effects, or if you do, banish it. Wow. During your main phase, if you control primordial, set this from your graveyard. And finally, the trap, declare normal monster's name, then apply this effect if you control no monsters, special normal with a declared name from deck or graveyard. You take no battle damage from battles involving normal monsters with the declared name, primordials, till the end of this turn. During your opponent's turn, you can banish this from your graveyard to target a normal monster you control in your graveyard. Take control of a monster your opponent controls with higher attack until the end phase. So this is pretty cool. This interacts with opponent's cards with lower attack, provided they've been normal. This interacts with ones with higher. Summon a normal monster from deck. You know, I'm already thinking pacifist, but realistically, I can't really make a determination on these cards at present because we just don't have enough of them. This individual card, the Imperial Dragon, is really cool, and these are a sufficient amount of cards to set it up consistently. We'll need to see if they make more of cards like this in order to make the deck tick. At present, there's just not enough to say anything definitive, I think. In general, though, these are like cool for decks that want normal monsters, even without the like Imperial support. So that's neat. I think those strategies are fun. Next up. The show goes on with Performage. Okay, so you might be wondering to yourself, why are they printing new Performages? The answer to this one is really fucking frustrating, actually. So there's actually a whole bunch of Performages that just never got printed. The reason is, I don't know. Not really a reason. But we're getting the rest of them now. Here we go. First up is Performage Fire Dancer. Once per turn, target a Performage you control. If it attacks a defense position monster, they take piercing. If this card is normally special, you can add a Performage from your deck to your hand. And if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a face-up monster on the field. It loses 500. So it's like Skullcrabat Joker. Water Dancer. These are the pendulum effects. If you control a Performage, you can special this card. Wow. When a monster declares an attack, you can target an attack position monster, change it to defense position. If this card is pendulum summoned, you can add a Poly from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, target an attack position monster, change it to defense position. Finally, Wind Sucker. Target a Performage pendulum you control. You can either reduce its level by 1 or increase this card's pendulum scale by that monster's. If your opponent controls a monster or Performages on the field, this can be specialed, and you are locked to Performages to leaves. You can reduce its level by 1, and you can change the level of all 4 Performages you control to 5. Cup Tricker. You can target a Performage Xyz, attach this card to it as material. If this card is added to your extra deck, you can add a face-up Performage Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. If this card is in your hand, you can target an Xyz monster on the field, detach a material from it. If you do special this card, the Xyz monster loses 600. And if this card is detached from an Xyz monster to activate that monster's effect, target 2 Xyz monsters you control, detach a material from one, and attach it to the other. I get it. It's doing cup trick shit. Here are the targets for those 2 above abilities. First up, Performage Trapeze Witch. Your opponent cannot target Performages you control with card effects that can be destroyed by card effects. They can't target this card for an attack while you control a Performage other than herself. And when an attack is declared involving your Performage, you can make that opponent's monster lose 600 attack. Very hard to get rid of. Shadowmaker, I remember, was like a really cool card people always wanted. Detach a material from this card, send a Performage from your deck to the graveyard, add a Rum from your deck to your hand. When a card effect is activated that targets this card, detach a material to special summon a Shadowmaker from your extra. And when the last material is detached, you can special summon a Performage from your graveyard. Here is Trapeze High Magician. Can't be destroyed by battle or card effects while it has material. Your opponent takes any effect damage you would have taken instead. If this card has Trapeze as material, it gains this effect. It can attack 3 times. And here's their Rum. Target a rank 4 spellcaster Xyz, special summon it, and then special summon a rank 5 or higher by using the first monster as material. So, these cards are good and would have seen play in 2016. It's weird. They're coming out alongside a version of Plushfire that has its effect errata to be once per turn so that it isn't ridiculous. But unfortunately, while these cards are good for the Performapal deck, the Performage Performapal deck, that's just really not sufficient to cut it right now. Like, this would be fantastic at making end boards that consist of Rafflesia. You know, the new fusion is really sticky. But at the end of the day, it doesn't resolve any of the outstanding problems with Pendulum. It forces another archetype into a deck that's already bursting at the seams if you want to play it with actually competent cards. It's rough. It's rough in general. Next up, this guy. Okay, so in the manga, Kaiba tries to reborn the blue eyes that Grandpa had that Yugi is wielding, and it refuses to attack him. The reason it refuses to attack him is because Kaiba doesn't have any soul. So this card is called Blue Eyes of the Soul, or Blue Eyes of the Heart, I guess, whatever. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. You can only use the third effect after you activate Millennium Ankh. Discard this card to add Millennium Ankh from your deck to your hand. Possession cannot switch. And if your opponent normal summons a monster whose level is 8 or higher while this card is in your graveyard, send this monster to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. Card's not good, of course. It's not strong at all. It'll be good for SEO. There will be a significant amount of people who are excited there's a new Blue Eyes card that can play in their Blue Eyes deck that's not very good. But the card isn't strong. It's not good. Why is everyone questioning me? Why is everyone so mad? Okay. I'll just go ahead and explain why people are mad. Oh, no, not that. God, fandom is so bad. So people are mad because this card, Millennium Ankh, show 5 Forbidden 1 monster cards from your hand, deck, or face of field, then special summon the Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate. Then shuffle the face-up monster cards you control into the deck, except Exodia monster cards, whose original levels are 10 or higher, and Millennium monster cards you can't special summon for the rest of the turn. Shuffle this card into the deck instead of sending it to the graveyard. Is the cornerstone of a stupid info deck, right? It's like the card that makes this Infinite Forbidden deck work. And this is a searcher for that card. There's a couple of people being like, you have messed up because you haven't read this third card, or this third effect. So I understand the third effect is removal. It is completely telegraphed removal because it's in the graveyard. And its use cases are pretty few and far between. What do you summon that's 3,000? So is Promethean. If you think this effect is even remotely comparable to a card like Promethean Princess, Chad, if you think this card is good, know that Peeps Yu-Gi-Oh! Also thinks this card is very good. Here's what I'll say about this card. I think this piece of Blue Eye support that Peeps Yu-Gi-Oh! Thinks is very good will be as good as the last piece of Blue Eye support that Peeps thought was very good. Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. I think they will see similar amounts of play. All right. This asshole. Chorizo, the Magistus Spirit. His name's Chorizo. Okay, so this card is like very hard to place. Materials: a Fusion Synchro Xyz Link and a Spellcaster. Must be Fusion Summoned or Specialed by sending a Fusion Synchro Xyz Link and a Spellcaster you control to the graveyard. Once per turn, when a monster declares an attack, you can target it and negate the attack, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to that monster's, then you can return the monster to the hand. Effect doesn't matter. It could be a vanilla. It is just kind of interesting that this card can be summoned by sending a Spellcaster and a Fusion Xyz Synchro or Link monster on your field to the graveyard. I think the uses for this card are going to be similar for the uses when people were like, doing like Norden loops. I mean, obviously less powerful, but it just feels like this is a card that's existence means that people will now have a mechanism by which they can contact to get spellcasters into the graveyard really easily. Why would you want to do that? Who knows? That's between you and God. But it strikes me as interesting that this is going to be a way for that to happen. To be fair, just make SP instead of this. No, same materials. You all aren't thinking clearly enough. Let me describe some scenarios where this might actually be preferable to a card like that. Let's say you're playing a deck that has functional access to a billion materials, right? Let's say that deck, which has access to a billion materials, is called, oh God, I don't know. Let's just make up a name. Let's say Snake Eye. Let's say it's called Snake Eye, right? And let's say in this hypothetical deck, again, let's just make up a name here. Let's say Snake Eye. having access to the Synchro toolbox would be very powerful. I think that maybe generally being able to link away 3 monsters worth of material into a tuner is going to be really strong for decks that summon a bunch of cards. Right? Willing to be wrong about this. But keep in mind, just by virtue of the Charmers existing, almost every deck can now be like, all right, I've got some extra material on my field. Let's make a fucking tuner. It's just a super poly target until we get a good deck for it. I agree. I think that at present, I can't think of anywhere I would really want to jam it. That isn't just trying too hard. But I think that it's a card that in the future has a lot of potential. All right, last one. Break the Seal. Wait, like pissing? Activate one of these effects. Put a Break the Seal from your deck or field face up. Send 2 Break the Seals to the graveyard. Add a forbidden one from your deck to your hand. All right, this concludes New Cards PogChamp. I will now break the seal, and then we're going to do some more shit.